Hi guys, welcome to the world is your bowl of noodles, slurp noodles, and chat. I am the host Jordan Ibukwe, and today we have a very special guest speaking from Japan. I cannot wait to hear the amazing words that her organization is doing, as well as her. And if you are, of course, living in Japan, please go support this organization. I will link them down below so you guys can show your love and support. But thank you guys for being here, and let's get into the episode.
Okay, hello, my name is Kokoa, and I'm part of the Japan Youth Council, which is an organization that tries to reflect youth voices to policies. And in that organization, we have some committees, and I'm part of Environment and SDGs Committee. So I am passionate about climate change, and I joined this organization 2 years ago. And as Japan Youth Council, we do Japan Climate Youth Conference since 2021, which is we gather people who are interested in climate change and they take lectures and make policy recommendations to politicians and officials.
That's amazing. And of course, I wanted to talk more about your organization. Just basically, what made you love climate advocacy?
So I started to like interested in climate change about 6 years ago. When I saw the news of climate change, I was deeply shocked by the fact that it will affect many people in the future. And I really thought that like I have to make changes. So I joined one organization called Fridays for Future. And then like I was invited to other organization who was part of Fridays for Future, which was about a group of documentary. So we made a documentary related to climate change. And then like by another person, I was invited to like this Japan Youth Council, and I was kind of like wanted to try different things related to policies. So I decided to join this organization.
Course, I've talked to people about climate change all over the world, and the same thing goes. Like, they really want to, of course, bring more, like, of course, they want to address the issue because climate change is a big issue and it's really broad. And so, trying to figure out a way to include the youth and help it be more understandable is really wonderful. And of course, applause to your organization for what it's doing in Japan for bringing climate advocacy and helping to spread awareness and change. And I do want to talk about youth voices and policy. Japan has a unique political and cultural landscape. How do you ensure that young people's voices are not only heard during the conference, but also influence government policies afterward?
That's a really good question. It is difficult, and not every like policy recommendation will be reflected in policies, but we are trying to like do by like communicating with high-ranking officials, such as the Minister of the Environment annually, by sending following up email or like call, we can push that like policy recommendations to be able to like really going in the world, and being persistent and insistent is really important.
Exactly, because especially when you're trying to address something to government officials, you have to be persistent and also consistent with your efforts. Because usually, at first, it might not be heard, but as you keep pushing it, of course, your voice will be heard and people will get involved with what you're doing. And so, again, thank you so much for what you are doing and for bringing that just power and like determination. Because, of course, climate advocacy is not easy at all. You have a lot of people denying climate change, a lot of people saying other things, but bringing them the facts, giving them, of course, everything that's happening around the world, it opens a lot of eyes to this issue. And of course, many young people around the world feel overwhelmed by climate change and uncertain about the future. How does your organization help transform climate anxiety into meaningful action, hope, and long-term engagement?
Yeah, that's a really good question. It is, like sometimes so hard to like face climate change because there are so many like negative stuff. But we are trying to like combat this by making opportunities where people who are feeling in the same way can come together and talk about their feelings, especially during the Youth Climate Conference. We come together at night and talk together. And so at that time, we're just try to accept what we're feeling, and that's okay to feel conscious about uh, that it is okay to feel climate anxiety. So, and then like it is difficult to be alone, and like we have to like um see the news that is negative, but if there are like people who are like feeling the same way, it will be much better to feel that climate anxiety. And plus, we try to host kind of celebration after a big event. And even if it's a small result, we are trying to like, like be happy about that. And by doing so, we can continue taking action, even though like it's a difficult problem.
Exactly. And of course, with doom scrolling, social media has made it it's just insane with the amount of information that's being released right now about climate change. It even scares me, and I'm just like, whoa. But I remind myself that, of course, we have people like you and just, of course, your organization helping to increase the awareness and help, of course, decrease climate change as well, but also help it to be that the world is a better place. And if we keep reminding young people, yes, this is major and also it's negative, it can be in of course in the long run can be something that can be changed and be something positive. So also the celebration is really wonderful, giving like more hope, and I think it's just an amazing way to like include more of the youth and just help them lift up their spirits. But of course climate solutions require cooperation across generations. So what have you learned about building productive relationships between young activists and older policymakers, and what advice would you give to youth who feel their voices are often dismissed?
I think it's really important not to be overly humble and start from an equal footing. Because even though like they're older and they're politicians, it doesn't mean like we're not equal. So try to be equal, and so that our opinions are considered seriously. I personally never wear suits when I talk to politicians. I just wear casual clothes. It's okay. And also, my advice is that it is important to recognize that politicians must hear the voices of people, including us youth, and your voices matters a lot. When I first started doing recommendations, like making political recommendations, I I had little knowledge about climate change and I didn't know like a lot. But our experiences matter and our perspectives matter. For example, like if you're feeling that, like you don't really want to have a child because of climate change, or like if you stop eating meat because of climate change, that experience and perspective is really important, and like that's something they don't have. So be confident about what you're feeling and express what you feel clearly. If you feel that your voices are not heard or like not reflected after the meeting with politicians, you can also tell that to politicians or like TV or newspaper or like various media. You just need to like express what you feel.
Exactly. And with going into, because politicians, they don't know the like overall people. They might say they know, but really they don't know us truly. And so speaking up about it and also being confident about your emotions is important because as well your voice matters. And if you have something to tell to your politician that you would like them to know, then no one's stopping you. You have the resources, you have the connect if you don't have the connections, Google it. There's so many ways to get in touch and to like of course address these issues. And I think that's very important that we help young people as well build that confidence to say, you know what, my emotions matter and what I'm doing matter. What I'm doing does matter. So I need to of course make it aware to of course people in power. But I do want to know Japan's role in global climate leadership. Being as one of the like world's largest economies and a leader in technology, what role do you believe Japan should play in addressing global climate challenges, and how can young people help shape that vision?
Yeah, I think Japan should take climate measures proactively because like historically Japan has emitted a huge amount of greenhouse gases, and they have to like reduce the greenhouse gases as much as possible right now. And firstly, like of course they have to like achieve the net zero in 2050 nationally, and they have to like reduce in the way that align with the promise of 1.5 degree goal. So, for example, like they can try plugging solar, which is we put solar panel on the balcony so that we can use at homes, or like do solar sharing, which is you can put like solar panel on top and you can do like agriculture under the solar panel. So, and plus we have to also do like internationally.
Right.
Now Japan is exporting like a lot of LNG to Asia, so we have to change that from LNG to renewable energy so that it not only like provide energy, but also like it can, like it can be a sustainable way. And for the young people, I think there are like many ways that young people can push the climate measures in Japan and internationally. I myself was involved in like many different groups. So the methods include like talk to candidates before elections, or like make policy proposals, do demonstration, make documentaries. Like there are many ways. So we can like try what we feel excited, and like try to like join a local organization is a good way to start.
Exactly. And just, of course, I've never been to Japan, but I hope to go one day. But really seeing how the youth are so active in what they're doing. And, you are definitely right with everything, renewable energy. And sadly, though, with the increased usage of AI, it's been becoming more harder for, of course, because the world runs on money. So anything that's quicker, easier, and cheaper will do. But really, if we can find a way that to include sustainable energy in everything that we do, if it means like having to connect AI to that, there has to be some way. So basically, there's a way for everything, but it's about if people are willing to listen and if people are willing to take action in these issues. But I do want to kind of take this and shift it to more local solutions. Many climate conversations focus on global goals, but change often begins locally. Can you share an example of a youth-led initiative in Japan that started small but created a broader impact or inspired policy discussions?
Yeah, of course. Like there's a group called Zero Carbon Kanagawa. Kanagawa is one of the like prefectures in Japan, and they started with a couple of people, but then like after repeatedly organizing an event, they gathered people who are interested in local action, and they organized Kanagawa Youth Climate Conference, which is a conference where people can first take lectures about like climate change and like other topics related to climate change, and then finally they make policy proposal to the Kanagawa like local government. And interesting thing is that like they focused on insulation measures, and before, insulation wasn't really focused in that local area, but then like thanks to their actions, politicians started to like focusing on the insulation, and also like they host events about um like they hosted events cooperating with housing companies. So like that is interesting because like usually like local groups go to like politicians and government officials or things like that, but then like they also try to involve companies and local communities. So I think it's one of the interesting local solutions.
Exactly. And just with how it started just locally and branched into something bigger, really, it shows that even if you have something that's small, it can, through time and through persistence can become something big. So with even if you feel like your climate action isn't going anywhere, that your voice isn't being heard, if you keep going day by day, people will start realizing it and start joining your mission. And I think that's the power of the internet, but also the power of connections and building community. But I do want to know, like, climate change affects communities differently based on geography, income, and access to resources. How does your conference ensure that diverse youth voices, including rural communities, marginalized groups, and young people with different experiences, are represented in the conversation?
So first, we try to remove the financial barrier because as young people, like including myself, it is difficult to like pay a high amount of money. So participation for the youth climate conference is free, and when we like do the retreat or like camp, the accommodation and transportation are covered, and also like online participation is available. So there are many participants from all over the country, which is really good. And before starting the event or any camp, we ensure that everyone knows about the ground rule so that like people don't have to fear anxiety or things like that because of the like microaggression. So in that way, we are trying to like ensure there are diverse voices from young people.
Exactly. And it's wonderful that your organization is making it affordable and even free to the point that people are able to join. So I love it when organizations try every possible means, even if it means making it free to allow youth to come, because I have felt that course just like disappointment when I see like, oh my goodness, something's like $2,000 and I can't even afford to go. But really when I see organizations like this just doing that and making it easy for young people to like go to these platforms, it's just amazing. And of course, going into the next question, looking ahead 10 to 20 years, what qualities do you think the next generation of climate leaders will need most? And how is your organization helping young people develop those skills today?
I think the most important skill is to be able to talk with people from different ideologies because for climate change, we need bipartisan agreement, of course, to be able to make changes. So, like the ability to listen and accept the voices of people who have different ideology and try to pursue the landing point rather than like trying to fight each other is really important. And that we need people who has that kind of skill in every field because we have to change like policies, businesses, medical field, like transportation and like everything. So and we are trying to like cultivate that skill in many ways. For example, at Democracy Festival, where people who are supporting different political parties and people from like politicians from different political parties come together and they talk together and like there are also like panels where politicians talk together about one issue, and it is a very unique opportunity where you can talk with people who have a completely different ideologies, especially these days because of the social media and filter bubble. We are likely to talk with people who have like the same ideology and the same opinions, but like that won't like lead to a change, I think. So like the event like Democracy Festival is one of the ways. And also like we sometimes host Democracy Fitness event, which is um uh Democracy Fitness is a one that cultivates the skill to respect different opinions and continue dialogue until you are satisfied. Sometimes you feel it's kind of difficult to like try to keep talking with people who have different opinions. Of course, like you think you have to like pursue the climate change measures so hard, but like some people feel in the different ways. But that conversation is really important. So by like hosting the events like Democracy Festival and Democracy Fitness, we are trying to cultivate that skill.
Exactly. And with what you just told a few minutes ago about listening, because of course you're going to meet a lot of people with different opinions when it comes to, of course, climate change. So, you have to be really open-minded and you just can't be so straightforward, like that my opinion matters, yours doesn't. Because in life, everyone's gonna have different opinions and so you have to really understand where they're coming from. And if you need to, like, of course, bring your facts, bring your everything like that. And if it doesn't work, don't push it. You just, as time goes on, more people will understand. But involving climate, when especially in the climate change space, you know, you have to have your own, yeah, like, your own judgment, especially when it comes to other people, because a lot of people are gonna bring in the facts. I'm saying, like, you understand it too. Like, climate change is such a big topic, and even I get stressed. I'm like, whoa, this is so much. But really, once you kind of like understand that and like have a strong like judgment, like, okay, I see where you're coming from. I might not agree with this, but I definitely understand it. But going into the second to last question. If you could send one message to young people in countries such as Nigeria, Kenya, India, Brazil, the United States, and beyond, who want to make a difference but don't know where to start, what would you tell them?
I would say don't be afraid to join the local event or local organizations because when I started 6 years ago, I was so shy and I couldn't talk with many people. But then, like, thanks to one of my friends who invited to the organization, I was able to start this climate action. And for myself, community and connection are really important to be able to continue my action because since it's really fun to be able to talk with people in my organization and it's so comfortable, I can I feel like I wanna continue this action in the future. So try to find the like-minded people in local event or local organizations. And if you join one of the events or like groups, you can find a person who can invite you to different events or like groups and opportunities. So in that way, you can continue. You can go on. So and if you don't have such an event or organization in your local community, you can gather with a couple of friends to start taking actions. So maybe you can host book reading events or like see the events to see documentaries. And then like by involving that people, you can make one group and try to do like other stuff, some like do demonstrations or like make policy proposals. So even small stuff you can, just try, and that will be a big change in the future, I think. So don't wait to be perfectly prepared, but try doing something that make you feel excited.
Exactly. And just with joining local organizations, I know there is a lot. You have, I'm saying, like, we have the world in our hands. Like, the internet is right here. Google up some like campaigns in your maybe like government houses or just whatever. And even if you can start your own as well, like start like a small climate or action club at your school. There's so many things that you can do. And if you're afraid of starting one, like what Miss Coco has said, just like, joining local organizations as well as can be amazing. And so really it's small, take small steps, but as those small steps grow, you'll become, of course, confident and you can even go for bigger steps as well. But I do want to go into the last question. The Youth Climate Conference has created a space for dialogue and action in Japan. What inspired the creation of this movement, and what impact do you hope future generations will say it had on both Japan and the world?
So we really had this idea that youth voices were not delivered at the climate policies process, which is a huge problem. So we first wanted to host climate citizens assembly at national level, but and climate citizens assembly is an assembly that randomly select people and then like they talk and make policy proposal to the government, national government. But it's kind of difficult to like do at the national level first, so we wanted to start at the local level. So we and that is why we started to use climate conference, and I think it will lead to like solution. I hope it will lead to climate solutions by making proposal to government, and also like by doing this youth climate conference every year, I think we can bring young people to closer to policies. And if we continue that, I think youth people will be part of the political process. And finally, I hope it will increase the number of people who take actions because it is sometimes hard to make a first step. But this climate conference can make it easier for people to start making political policy recommendations. And each year, I was able to meet like new people who started to be interested in climate change, or like who had been interested in climate change but never take action. So I hope this event will lead to more people who are taking action and who want to continue this in the future.
And I know it will because clearly what you guys are doing is phenomenal and the work that you're putting in is very effective. And I was scrolling through and I'm definitely linking it in the below. So people who are interested, please go join, of course, the organization. And just thank you so much, Miss Kokoa, for just what you're doing in Japan as well as your organization as well. And before we do leave this interview, I do want to ask one more simple question. And this is very lighthearted, but I do want to know, what is your favorite bowl of noodles and why?
Oh, what is my favorite noodle?
Mm-hmm.
I would say ramen
Mm-hmm.
because like I have eaten ramen since I was a kid, and there are like many good ramen restaurants in Japan, so you should try.
I really want to go. I'm like, my aunt went I think last year, 2 years ago, but I just was going through and I was like, ah, this is such a place that I need to go. Like, the food seems so wonderful and it's just a beautiful place. And I really just love culture. And so, because I was born in Nigeria, but I came to United States when I was like 3 years old. So, like, I just love all of that. But I think, yeah, like ramen is the place to go. Of course, in the States, we don't have the authentic Asian noodles, but we do have the quick, easy, cheap ones, which don't even count. But still, like I really do love ramen, especially like pho. I love pho, Vietnamese noodles, and like I would love to try tteokbokki. Like there's like a lot of things I would love to try. But I do also like I don't know like specific Japanese noodles, but I do know ramen is like really big. So like hopefully I can try it one day. But thank you so much, Miss Kokoa, for being here. Your words are absolutely wise, and just thank you again for making an impact.
Thank you so much for inviting me. It was so much fun to talk with you.